As I said to you at the beginning, both our speakers allowed me to lie on their behalf, but Ed said one thing which I think I will pass on to you, which it will inform what he's going to talk to you about. Ed has spent his career working for nearly all of the mobile operators on the planet, as far as I can tell. But he said he has implemented an academy which failed and learnt from it. And I think that might have particular resonance for some people, and is in the process, I believe, of setting up another one now. But I'm going to hand over now to Ed Scruton, who's going to carry on the subject.
Gosh, it's some recommendation when you come out just to start with. I failed, so brilliant. I guess so. The whole all the mobile companies in the world piece. Actually, no, I've only ever really worked for one. It's changed its name in the 10 years I've worked for it about 5 times. That's all. So currently we are Telefonica UK, and I'll come on to a bit more about that in due course. So where to start, I guess. Back in October time, I took a call from Don. And he said to, heard about what you've been doing, your story. I think it's quite compelling. Some insights maybe people can take away, some learnings, and maybe at least sort of sow some seeds for people, maybe who are thinking about a similar things at the moment, or similar challenges at the moment, if you like. So I said, for the first question, who else is talking? So it's only Edward de Bono, Ray Kurzweil, Clive Shepherd, Laura Overton, people whose blogs and tweets, I read quite and hang on sometimes. I thought, yeah, that's no problem, not a problem at all, I'll do that. And then afterwards, a little while afterwards, when the ego disappeared a bit, I was sort of there saying, well, okay, so do I believe that we have a story where actually there are hopefully some learnings that people can take away? And I thought, yeah, you guys are going to be the judges of that at the end, but I think, yeah, I can tick that box. And I thought, something else, I thought, well, I've sat where you're sitting now, and I've heard about a few sort of what I call like perfect projects where everything's gone to plan and the deliverables have been scoped and defined really early, and they've hit those deliverables on time and on budget. And unfortunately, you're not going to get that quite from me, but hopefully, as I say, actually some of the learnings that we've got, and some of the, I will talk about some of the mistakes we might have made along this journey on the way, and I hope that's okay with you guys. It says 30 minutes, don't worry, I promise it is only going to be 20. So that's the first thing. I'm going to talk you through, it's a bit of a story as far as we're concerned, so as far as I'm concerned. So a bit about the company and the background as well about what drove the idea around developing this retail academy. As you've just heard, I have actually already sort of been part of a development of one academy that's failed, and I don't know if any of you guys were at David Wilson's session yesterday, but it made me feel quite nice, because apparently almost all the companies he's been researching have had at least one failure so far, so we're still on track, I think. What is our Retail Academy? What challenges does that present to us, especially around sort of integrating a lot of the different activities that are happening across the talent cycle, and then just moving forwards around how's it going now and some thoughts to end. So hopefully quite quickly. Gosh. So who are we? So Telefonica, essentially an integrated communications type company. It started off in Spain and grew around Europe, and then as you can see, have a huge footprint around Latin America and some strategic investments, if you like, around China. So one of the biggest, over 250,000 employees. What I'm going to talk about today isn't about all of those, luckily for me. And quite in terms of scale, 285 million connections worldwide with 50 billions in revenues. And by most estimates, sort of about the 4th or 5th biggest communications type company, a player in the world. Given that 3 of those are based in China, that's still quite big for the rest of the world. So quite a global company there. So what about in the UK? So some numbers up there around the size of our business, if you like, and just so you know, so Telefonica in the UK, we'd sell to our customers, both business and consumer, through the O2 brand, and we have 22.5 million of those, and we're 10 years old as a brand this year, which is quite scary actually, because people sometimes forget about actually how young as a business we actually are. And I think there's some figures up there which might not tell the whole story. As a company, what's really important to us, yes, the figures, and yes, the shareholders clearly are very important, but part of that is actually about really focusing in on the customer experience at the heart of what we do. And internally, that's what we're constantly measuring ourselves on, is how satisfied are our customers, and also how many fans do we have, which is like a take on the net promoter idea. And I think it might shock some of you because I have experienced our own customer services. I've experienced customer services of other mobile operators as well. I wouldn't say it's always that obvious to the outsider that we are focusing on this quite a lot. Great customer experiences probably start off as well with great employee experience and great employee engagement, and in common with many other businesses, we're part of the Great Place to Work piece and focusing employee engagement through that and recognised through that. And then finally about the UK business, just like to just focus on some of the other stuff that we do as well out of this. And one of our objectives as a business is to be recognised as a sustainable business who are actually making a difference in the communities we work, and particularly proud for our businesses. The people piece in there, so 1,000 big ideas, which lets youth projects sort of flourish with a bit of investment from within our business, just to do good in their own local communities. So that's a bit about the UK business. And I'm going to talk to you more about the retail business as a whole, because they're essentially the user group that we've been focusing on and this case study is based around. So my colleagues, 4,000 of them, across 450 branches based all around the UK and Ireland. And the public face of our business, that's a really key point, because all of our customers go into our shop and essentially you are O2 as far as anyone else is concerned. And this is quite important when it comes to the development activity and what framework you put around that, because their expectations are, and rightly, that this individual in your shop is, first of all, a product knowledge expert, not just in your products, but everyone else's products. A pseudo-accountant, because they want to come and talk to you about their bill problems. That probably says more about our billing than anything else, but still, the guys at the sharp end have to deal with it. Mind readers from time to time, customer service experts, and also we like to, hopefully they're going to sell to people as well. And you're working in an environment with an ever-increasing and diversifying product range to boot. So some challenges there in terms of what we're expecting from our people. So why, I guess, why did we go with the Retail Academy? We've already had one failure, so why not make it two? And I'm sure that as with every great thing in life, it will end in some sort of failure in the future, but hopefully more success than failure. We were at David's session yesterday. I think rule 1 that he came up with, which I'm really happy is on my slides as well, is if it's a learning piece, if it's something that the training department is doing, it won't work at all, it will die. So that's sort of quite a good thing in that, as far as we're concerned, this is something that's been driven as part of much wider organisational changes and a much wider change in the retail world, where actually as a division of our company looking to really up their game, it's quite difficult sometimes being a retailer when actually your main business as Telefonica isn't retail, but as a retail arm really want to going out there competing with the real retailers, really wanting to up their game. A shift towards trying to, as part of that, trying to empower the individual stores and the individual themselves into really running their store as a business, and the individual contributing to that as well. And so, as far as learning and development was concerned, our part in that is trying to devolve the responsibility, or at least the way that an individual interacts and goes through the learning process, more down to the shop floor and the first line manager level. So again, quite common approach and quite common challenges I think you're seeing across many different organisations. As you can see on our little image there, so trying to move from if you like, a production line approach to learning into something very different around an individualised approach to what they're doing. So as part of this piece, there's also coming from the business a desire for and a need for, if you like, as part of this whole reorganisation and changes, much more clarity around a framework for role and career progress, particularly role progress actually. How can you be the best that you possibly can be in the role you're doing? And much clearer alignment about what is happening within our talent, what's happening within our populations. Why at the moment have you got 4 different systems to enable someone to write a review, do your one-to-one, update your learning, go and access some other types of learning, which just doesn't happen to be that sort of learning, so it's in a different place. Real sort of big things, and users going, wow, I don't know where on earth I am. And then the final point in there as well is, this isn't a 70-20-10 case study. I'm sure there probably are some of those around the hall today and yesterday. But what we wanted to do is sort of recognise and try to, in some way to support the fact that, yes, we recognise that learning is taking place on the job, and how can we help people, if you like, register some of that, take account of it, share it with others, but without getting in the way, because essentially a lot of it's already happening. How can we just make it happen maybe a bit more effectively? So those are some of the sort of drivers for why we went into the sort of academy approach. And I'm just going to talk to you a bit more now about, I guess, what the academy is. So crikey, that's what it is. So this is a bit about the, if you like, the nuts and bolts about what's, hopefully most of you can see, the slides should be available anyway, so if it can't quite see all the pillars in there, I'll talk you through bits of it. But essentially, in common with many other businesses, it's based fundamentally around the competency framework, but the competency framework has been sort of taken from the big capabilities within the business and actually made meaningful at the role level within our environment. And our user groups and our actual people, employees, were part of redefining what those competencies were and if you like, validating the fact that they made sense for the roles we're talking about. And essentially it's gosh, is this going to work? Oof. It's if you like, competency framework which enables a user to move up from associate, expert and master within their job role. So, as I say, succession planning is one thing, but also the role, their own role progression is vital and a key part of our academy piece, and applicable to all roles and all levels. I'll probably just stop there and just mention that it is applicable to all roles and all levels, and the work we did during last year was around actually getting it out to the line manager community and getting those used to the process, used to the way that we're doing things, and actually it's only this year, so it's actually only starting now where it rolls out to the full set of people. So we're very deliberately doing that in terms of taking a staged approach, making sure that our leaders and the people who are going to be driving this in the future are very comfortable, clear with the process, understand what's required at each point, before we then ask them to lead it in terms of taking it to the rest of the levels. So another piece that, gosh, I'm almost like rephrasing David's presentation to some extent. Another piece that David mentioned yesterday was the need to make sure, again, this isn't outside of anything else that happens. It's really, it's core and it's part of, as far as possible, an individual's journey and part of the organisational life. So it's quite important for us that the cycle aligns with the performance process. So whereas it used to be probably an IPR and an APR from 6 months and 12 months, where someone spent a week trying to work out what on earth they'd done 6 months ago. Actually, what we want to do is make sure it's very aligned, and the information that you're gathering and your portfolio of evidence, if you like, is continually building and adding into that. And it's easy. Essentially, we want to make, probably the biggest win we got from this is demonstrating to people that actually if you do take part in this, it's actually easier for you to do it, especially when you do come to those sort of performance cycles. It's clear it's within the year. Those dates up there, by the way, I only noticed this morning. They're wrong dates, so don't pay too much attention to when the dates happen, but essentially it goes on a 6-monthly cycle. And progress is dependent on demonstrating the think, the do, and the share. And again, it's probably like a different way of saying a plan, do, review. I'm sure everyone has different ways of thinking about this, but taking that piece around, again, putting the user in control of their learning and thinking about what is it you're trying to achieve, not just from a learning perspective, what has your 180-degree feedback tool told you need to look at, but also what particularly is happening within your store, and what particularly is happening, what are you trying to achieve from accessing the learning and the other activities relating to it. So it starts off with in the think phase with we're using a 180-degree feedback tool. So 360 could have been used here. Went for a 180 mostly for, I guess, the simplicity as much as anything else, and the nature of having to get everyone to do loads of 360s we thought would be overly cumbersome. So moving from think then into do. So do, we're giving people the opportunity to, yes, access learning, but probably even more importantly is, well, what else are people, who else is accessing the same learning? Now that you're not doing things in just your own store, your own area doing it, it could be that someone in, got to get it the right way around, John O'Groats to Land's End could be doing something very similar, and actually we've never had a way of connecting you before. So part of what our solution needed to do is be able to connect those people and enable them to move through the share phase as well, and share their stories, connect with others, and essentially sort of build up their portfolio and evidence their success. So it all starts off with the individually diagnosed needs, and really clear feedback for us, and is from all communities, from all user groups actually, from the managers to the senior leaders to the users themselves. Was at the moment we're going everywhere. sure, again, in common with lots of other businesses, we have 15 different passwords which all sort of change at different points in time, and actually what we need to do is have one place to go. So it's very clear that if we could get a one integrated experience, we've already well on the way to satisfying a lot of people in terms of answering some of their current gripes, if you like, and challenges. And as we develop the system with the help of our partners, I'll talk to you a bit more about in a moment, sort of the underlying principles or the guiding lights, if you like, for us were, and again, this is that we came to these with the use of our user group population, is around, make it something that we can actually trust. So it's there, it works when I need it to. The information on there is correct, as opposed to lots of our other systems around the place. It's convenient. I can access it when I want, where I want, when I need to. Yes, you can access it from tablets if you need, but it's outside of our firewalls. And essentially, it's simple as well. So I don't want to have to click through 15 screens to get to where I need to go. Actually, what we need you to do is be able to get to where you need to go straight from the front screen. So trust, convenience, and simplicity were sort of very much the ballpark. I'm just going to quickly come back to think, do, share again and give you a bit more of an insight potentially into what else is happening within those phases. And again, from my point of view, what the system and the infrastructure needs to support. So within your think, you're gaining, I guess, some of the insight in yourself and actually selecting, developing and deciding what it is you want to achieve through your learning. And then within do, you're evidencing. I've called something up there called hot housing. And essentially within there, what we're doing is enabling people as groups, if you like, just to quite easily and quite helped by the system to do it rather than hindered by it, is find other people who have similar challenges to you. And if you want to, we've got, it's linked directly into Yammer. You can set yourself up a little user group and actually do some action learning, action orientated, if you like, approach to work. Connect with others, and then as you go through to share, it's, for us, success is very much based on, yes, you can do the learning, that's great, fantastic, but what else are you doing around it? And not just that's what success is based on, but making it easy for people to be able to do that. And clearly, as you can see there, performance becomes not a twice-in-a-year job, it's actually happening all the time. And our process around there for, if you want, this is particularly telecoms type language down there, but our people like it. So you get a chance every 6 months to decide, do you want to upgrade or do you want to renew where you are at the moment? There's no iPhones for it though, unfortunately. So that gives you a bit of I guess, that's what people want from the academy. And so therefore, this is what's some of the challenges me and my team had as trying to develop the infrastructure to make it a reality. And I just call it sort of joining the dots, really. And I think, yes, joining the dots is important, and it'll probably, hopefully, they'll all join up, and it'll take a couple of seconds or what have you around it. But the most important part of this slide is actually the user being in the middle, and the user being, what we're trying to fix everything around and make, and have those guys and whatever user group it is, be it the user themselves, their line manager, or the leaders, be able to have what they need, be in the middle of everything. So nice and easy, not a problem. So I guess what to do as far as we're concerned, we're faced with a bit of a choice within there. You can, there are some fantastic sort of businesses who actually system software that you can actually do this all in one place already. You've heard from Jason. But actually you're also able to, and probably increasingly, and maybe without people realising necessarily, is actually you're able to probably put all those caravan shacks that I saw on one of Jason's slides and make those talk to each other a lot more effectively and maybe more simpler than you might imagine. And I think, what I'm saying here is actually both approaches have some merits, and I think if you're faced with different circumstances, you choose one and others another. From our perspective, as with everything in our beautiful company, it's speed is very much of the essence. We already had most of our systems actually are outside of our firewalls, so they're already, I guess, I don't like to use the term necessarily, but in the cloud. And so therefore it's actually probably a lot more easier nowadays through using certain things to link them together. Now for some of you guys in here, I recognise, especially if there's any people in the banking industry and other heavily regulated places, being in the cloud is still probably some way off, although I probably get the feeling that it's not going to be that long until others are doing it as well. But for us, actually developing what you got made a lot of sense. So I guess, giving you an idea, so we went for the idea of incrementally even, improving existing capability. And I guess, so sort of why within there? So for us, speed was of the essence, not much time in here. Cost, it's not necessarily just about cost, it's also about the fact that actually, if this is a reality, what we can do is every pound or euro we're spending within developing this capability can actually be focused on achieving the results we want, as opposed to going out and relicensing, getting different software involved. And within our business as well, and I know I talked to a few colleagues around other businesses, I know this is not uncommon. Currently, the systems that we actually have already, I can let you into a secret, my area isn't paying for it at all. So actually, going away and doing something different can add on a huge overhead that you don't currently have. And I think, whereas there's some great reasons outside of cost, of course, that's also a factor within it. The agility that we wanted to demonstrate, so speed's one thing, so the agility and working with people who could actually help us, and go through quite quick cycle times, listen to feedback, change, update, listen to feedback, change, update. So for us as well, vital that we're working with people, and I've mentioned up there already, working with partners who enable that to happen. And quite frankly, as far as we're concerned, we couldn't do it unless we were working with some, I guess, different thinking partners as far as I'm concerned anyway. And the fact over there as well, actually it's possible, and as well, people don't maybe necessarily realise this at the beginning, but yeah, actually this is much more possible than you might realise. And the incremental development actually can also as well, you can really transform that experience. I mean, having our users be able to go to one place and it does what they want it to, when they want it to, and it's quite easy, is, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's quite phenomenal for our company actually. So, quick piece about your people you work with in here. So, gosh, that's sort of Hawaii 5-0. So these guys are absolutely vital in everything you do. And as far as we're concerned, we do actually select our partners quite closely, I guess, and we work with our procurement teams when we need to. But it's very important for us that they're actually able to demonstrate shared values and ethos in the way we do things. And you've got our corporate values down at the bottom around being bold, open and trusted and clear. And very much, there's sort of two businesses. One of them, you can see their logo down at the bottom, the working manager, and who I know around the place here and downstairs, I'm sure. But so these guys and E2Train, I guess, are separate, our LMS vendor, both work with us, quite a long-standing relationship, and both come in and essentially just leave their own corporate identities at the door, and we work together as the whole as one team. And not only one team, but they actually will go and work together without us there, and often will be working effectively together. So, I can't overemphasise the importance of having people who are prepared to work in the way that you want them to work. And I think the piece within there about scale, I guess, and agility. So, we have 4,000 users within our world. It's not the biggest user group, but we need them to be able to scale up to the rest of the UK business, 11,000 users, and potentially the European business if needs be. So, working with people that can deliver this in the timeframes you want it is also clearly important. So a bit about how we did it then. So I don't think these are real databases or anything, by the way, but essentially using a series of hosted solutions and leveraging the cloud, and within there you're deciding what information is needed by your systems to go elsewhere. And I don't want to get any technological about it, but it's quite it's more of a reality now to be able to send that in real time when you need it to. So information gets passed backwards and forward in real time, displayed to the user, and a little bit less quickly when you don't need it to. And I think that's probably, again, in terms of like telling you bits about where we went slightly wrong, so focusing on that and really understanding when you need it to be on time and when you actually don't need it to be on time is quite fundamental, because we went through some real pain about trying to get things on time, which actually we didn't need to. So really understand what you think you need there and make it a reality. Ooh. So quick spider's web there. So this is what we're dealing with in terms of our systems and what have you. And as I said, you have the working manager in there in the middle, which essentially that is where your employees go. That is their front end. Talking some reversible arrows within there actually across your diagnostic tool, your performance tools. We use Yammer to enable some social collaboration when wanted. We do push some of it and it's built in, but it's not it's not part of the system as such, but the APIs are open, you're able to move backwards and forwards. And some other pieces within there. And then just quick piece in there about how's it going at the moment. And I realise, again, David talks about being able to demonstrate value, and I would say that as far as we're concerned, how it's going is more about the moment about who's been using what. And the first cycles and measures are, actually we're getting people coming on quite regularly at the moment, and active PDPs are there. It might seem quite low, but actually we don't know where it was the year before anyway. So just the fact we've got that now. And the second thing is we're not going to stop. So the fact is we've got that there, and we're going to redo it this year. And some of our users, I'm sure, have been through this before. They're expecting us to stop. But the more, I guess, if the general manager downwards keep aligned with what we're trying to do, it's likely to keep be a reality. And then it's probably the last slide, I think. Peer-to-peer collaboration. Quite high numbers in there, and again, so in terms of doing it at the moment. And what I would say is this works in places, doesn't in others. How we've approached this is making it quite easy for people to connect with others. So through the portal there, being able to identify and see what interests someone has, recognise your own interests, and connect with others quite sophisticatedly and system-driven has really helped make sure that people are talking to each other. And as I said, how does it compare with 2010? Well, the fact is we wouldn't have had a clue what we're doing in 2010, so actually we're already in a great place where we wanted to be. So this is where we're moving in terms of measurement in the future, because clearly value is important. It's a standardised, balanced scorecard. It's not, I'm sure it's not revolutionary to most people in here, but just saying that clearly, of course, the Academy has a part to play in everything. And I've probably been through all these before, and I am finishing right now. But I guess, so from my perspective, if you're faced with some similar challenges, and Jason articulated quite well the nature of formal, informal, and needing to bring together all of these different talent processes, I guess the first thing is don't dismiss what you already have. It might actually be possible to connect in that way. Select your partners and your people quite wisely. Keep things about the user. And we've actually tried some things and taken feedback as well, so that's the whole thing about the cycle time. So roll out something. We got some feedback that, actually, do you know what, when you're creating your learning plan, for some reason you can't add in some final thoughts when you're closing it down. It must be on our plan somewhere. It wasn't, but it's actually able, through that feedback, able to work with our partners to make that a reality quite quickly afterwards. And then the final point, as always, if it's a learning and development or a training initiative, it just isn't going to work, I think it's fair to say.
Ed, thank you very much indeed for your contribution. We're hard by lunch, so what I'm going to suggest is we can probably take one question, and then if you've got burning questions to put to either of our speakers, and you don't mind being a little bit further back in the lunch queue, you can delay their lunch as well. So does anyone have a question to put to Ed?
No. Wow.
You see, I was deliberately not putting my own in there to give you the chance. Yes.
Hi Ed, how do you resource internally, get the level of resource you have internally to make all of these suppliers work seamlessly together and give you an integrated solution?
So that's a really good question, actually, and I guess that is probably, I'm not sure if it's the answer you expected or not, but we only have effectively working with these customers 2 people, well, actually it's 1 at the moment, me and James, and that's one of the reasons why, again, why we're so reliant on our partners. Essentially, it's the extended enterprise, it's the extended team. So that clearly we need some governance around it in terms of regular meetings and bringing them together. But yeah, actually internally working with these our partners, it's mostly James and I. On the whole Academy project as a whole, there's 4 other people who are working around some other pieces. But essentially, as far as we're concerned, in managing the key people within there, it's 2 of us. And I'm actually leaving, actually. I've got a different job. So it's 1.
What a delightful throwaway comment on which to finish.